So wait, what is her banana then? What is her banana? They want to implant in her, take her uterus, and then apparently take her banana. I thought the banana was a reference to their probes, not that she has a banana too, or they're just obsessed with bananas. They think that everybody has a banana, but I guess that makes sense because they're apparently a race of aliens that are all male, so they assume that the women even have bananas. I don't know. It's super weird, and that's exactly why I loved Dandadan. Episode 1 was absolutely fantastic. I really feel like Dandadan is almost like the show that we need right now. We need a show that is willing to be just absolutely crude, disgusting, weird, over the top, all for the sake of showing this is okay. Have no filters. Let's be what anime is so great. I love anime because it's like this. It is so weird and it doesn't apologize for anything. I absolutely love this first episode. I honestly was coming into this show with a little bit of excitement. There's obviously a lot of hype for this franchise. A lot of people love it. I even skimmed a little bit of the first chapter just to kind of see what it was about because people were saying that it might get censored. It doesn't look like that really anything was censored unless I'm forgetting something because it's been a while since I skimmed it. It just, no filters. Again, absolutely bonkers. And yes, extremely inappropriate at times. And again, I think the weirdness really does come with its willingness to do things like, yes, have a bunch of aliens that are there, that are all males, that are trying to figure out how to reproduce. And so they're wanting to steal her stuff. And at the same time, they're talking about bananas and stuff like that. And they're super just without emotion. And then at the same time, you have Ken over here. He's literally getting attacked by a lewd turbo granny that says that she can touch her bags if she lets him have his wiener. And then she steals his wiener. Why not? Why not have the whole driving force for the male character be the fact that he just lost his wiener? Why not? It's great. I love it. Now, the only thing that gave me a little bit of a pause coming into the show was honestly Science Saru. I admit I have a back and forth when it comes to Science Saru. Sometimes I absolutely love what they produce, and then other times I don't really like what they produce. It's always like this mixture, but I honestly feel like they're the perfect studio to adapt something like this. Yes, here and there was a little bit of a problem with it being their usual kind of framiness when it comes to the animation, where it feels like they cut a lot of frames in between the shot. But overall, it was great. Like, there's these little subtle details that they put in with this particular first episode, and I really do hope that they carry it throughout the entire series. One that stood out to me was the moment that Ayase was inside of the hospital, and at some point, she's talking into a mirror. But you don't know that she's talking in the mirror until she goes to turn, and suddenly it shows her away from the mirror. And it's like, that's such a good transition. That's such a cool transition. While they're sitting here info dumping about their life and everything like that, there's these cool little shots that kind of just enhance the experience of actually viewing it. So really good stuff here. But yes, let's get into the show proper. For those who don't know what the series is about, it pretty much opens up with Ayase. She's breaking up with her longtime boyfriend, and it seems like she's obsessed with this Ken Takakura, which is an actor in Japan. Is a very muscular man. It seems like they're kind of accepting the idea that, yeah, men like that don't exist anymore. Men are more kind of frail and whatnot, so you're not going to find a boy like that ever again. I also end up spotting this one boy, this occultic fan that's basically being bullied. She kind of steps in for a minute. He starts to follow her around saying that she's in love or whatever, that she's actually into the occult stuff too, and this turns into an argument. The whole premise here is that, yes, Momo Ayase, she is the granddaughter of a spirit medium, and so she believes in ghosts. While at the same time, this otaku, he is really into the occult stuff. He's into like UFOs and whatnot. But the two of them don't believe in the other. So this turns into a challenge where they go to different locations that are hot spots. One is a tunnel that's hot spots for spirits, and the other one goes to a hospital that has had some UFO sightings. They end up running into those particular things before they come together in order to help each other. Now, the cool thing that kind of comes from this is that it seems like both of the individuals have some sort of power, which I actually kind of like. The idea that it's not just the otaku saving the girl or the girl saving the otaku. They all have an ability. Yes, unfortunately for Ken Takakura, who is the boy, the otaku, who she didn't know was his name until now, and she's fallen in love with him right now because he has the name of this actor, he got his wiener stolen by this spiritual being. It's a spirit that takes the form of this really wrinkly old granny that took his wiener and cursed him so that he can transform into this being that can fight. Whereas Ayase, again, being the granddaughter of this spirit medium, she has been her entire life being kind of pressed upon by her grandmother about the ability to control her chi. So she's able to use those abilities in order to fight things. Overall, it's like a good introduction to the story, this idea of these two individuals coming together through a commonality here, which is weird things of the world, these oddities that most people don't believe in. And there's a good setup right here because, again, this guy wants to get his unit back. But the one thing that I didn't really realize until after I watched the episode is it's kind of cool that we got so much information about these two characters in just this first episode, and it didn't feel like an actual info dump episode. Yes, there's like this whole segment where the two of them are kind of checking out these two locations, and they're talking to each other on the phone, and you're getting a little insight into like why Ayase herself actually believes in spirits. And this is because, again, her grandmother was pounding this into her head. At some point, she started getting made fun of because she was doing this whole ritual in order to protect herself that her grandmother showed her. But it kind of turned this whole thing where that's why she likes her grandmother so much, and also that she gets really angry when people make fun of her family. So she has a lot of pride in her grandmother and what her grandmother did because her grandmother brought her in when she lost her parents. But on the opposite side, you get a lot of insights into Kin and why he's so protective of Ayase right here is because she's the only person that's ever reached out to him. He's always been trying to get in contact with aliens because he was always alone, he was always bullied, and he wanted the aliens to be his friend. Again, in the midst of this single episode, having all of these moments, all these transitions, all of these fight scenes and whatnot, you're getting so much insights in the characters, and it never really feels like it's focusing on that because there's so much stuff happening. Now, it wasn't always roses, I will admit. Opening up this episode, I wasn't really feeling it. It kind of opens up with Ayase. She has this argument with her boyfriend. They fight each other, and then it cuts over to her hanging out with her friends. You get a little bit into the whole thing that she's obsessed with this Kin Takakura actor or whatever. But then it kind of transitioned to her first meeting, her meeting the otaku. I really, really hated this scene because it was like, oh my gosh, I really don't like this otaku. He is way too obnoxious. He's way too loud. He's too otaku nerd. He's got that grating voice that I just want to shut off the TV because he's that annoying. He's just an absolute nerd, and he's way too archetype for this. But I think the moment they start getting that little argument and you get that little spout between the two of them about, you know, ghosts being real or UFOs being real and them trying to prove it to each other, her talking high and mighty about her grandmother being a spirit medium, him saying there's no proof in ghosts, but there's all this other information with these presidents and whatever that, you know, acknowledge the existence of UFOs. It was like towards the later part of that, I was like, okay, it's still kind of grady. But I think the moment the two of them separate and you have that conversation over the phone, that's where I started kind of getting their chemistry because they're kind of talking more casual. And this is to a story beat because she literally at some point asks him, wow, you talk a lot different when you're on the phone. You're a lot more bold and you're a lot more clear when you're on the phone. Yeah, technically him not being right in front of her, this girl that's kind of very pretty, she's a Gyaru type character, and he's a nerd character, yes, he's probably not going to be too comfortable around her. But I also like the fact that that kind of extends to their environment. As they're talking, they're less impacted by what's around them, which technically happens. As you're talking to somebody on the phone or whatever, you're talking to somebody on the car drive or something like that, you take less note about what's around you. You kind of just focus on the important things while having a conversation. Your mind's being kind of distracted. So it's kind of cool to see Ken as he's walking around in this tunnel, and technically he's got his phone lighting the wall where there's these blood footprints, and he's not acknowledging them. He's casting a light on them, but he's not acknowledging what the feet are until he actually steps on one and the conversation ends. Suddenly he realizes what he's doing. I kind of found that little like kind of subconscious block really, really interesting. But yes, the actual paranormal. The Turbo Granny's freaking crazy. Give me a weenie and you can take my bags. And then starts chasing him down. She's like, you can't run. If he starts chasing you, you cannot let her catch you. And then on the opposite side, yeah, you have everything around the whole Serpos and them trying to procreate and stealing bananas and uteruses and stuff. And it's too weird. And I kind of assumed the point where the Serpos were trying to psychologically control Ayase, trying to make her kind of accept this kind of pleasure, whatever. I kind of assumed that she had some sort of block there because it kept hitting on the idea that her doing this ritual to block and everything like that. So I assumed it wasn't going to affect her. And then, of course, it ends up kind of triggering it to be awakened. But then, yes, Ken's showing up and he's just like... Again, this is kind of one of those interesting things where you kind of are stuck in the moment and you don't realize the absurdity of what's around you. I actually really do like this because it's something that I think a lot of writers and creatives don't really kind of acknowledge. This idea that when you're in the moment, you don't realize that you should be more focused on this. So yes, having Ken show up through a phone as this deformed being and him yelling, I have been cursed, all that Ayase's thinking is, oh, hey, Ken, save me, or Taku, cultist boy, hey, save me. And this guy's standing there with this banana hanging out. It's like, this is completely absurd, but nobody's acknowledging how absolutely bonkers right now is. Yeah, and it totally makes sense that the granny starts biting all the guys' bananas because she really likes wieners. This granny likes wieners. But yeah, he fights. He says he's not going to let them hurt Ayase. And then he ends up getting hit again. And he's like, never mind, I don't think I could do it. She's like, wait, you're giving up already? But no, I love the ending segment. Because, yes, of course, the granny gets knocked out of Kin for a very brief moment before it says that he's still got his weenie. If you want your weenie, come to the tunnel. But I love the little ending segment because it's like the two of them sort of being upset about the situation. Obviously, Kin needs to go get his weenie back and get rid of the curse. And then you have Ayase is kind of upset that both of them are kind of accepting the blame for the situation. And he's trying to be a little bit more courteous to her because, yes, she doesn't have any clothes. And so he's trying to give the clothes to her. There's a little bit of embarrassment that's happening. He really wants her to take his clothes. He thinks that it's all his fault, so he wants to do it by himself. But yet Ayase wants to join him and help him out. Again, it's both of them sort of accepting that they did something wrong, that they may have caused the other person a lot of discomfort. But the two of them sort of through that coming together because they're both at fault and they both want to rectify the situation. It's a cute little conclusion to it. Again, bring up the fact that his real name is the same name as this actor and her being doki doki about it, which is just silly. But yeah, overall, really fantastic. The animation was bonkers. The perspective shots are bonkers. The use of colors is crazy. There's a couple points, like I said, that feels like it's got a little bit of framiness to it that I kind of run into every now and then with Science Art. It doesn't usually bother anybody else, so don't take that as like, concrete there. I think I'm completely alone on that. Every now and then I see this kind of framiness and it bugs me and everybody else is like, I didn't notice it. But a really good opening, fun stuff. And yes, creepy nuts for the OP. I just loved that OP. The Creepy Nuts is absolutely fantastic. I love their style. Call the Night's music was just phenomenal, and I'm loving their music here as well. Overall, just a really fantastic episode. Great presentation, great start, great character developments, great bonding happening already. It all feels really natural. And at the same time, no filters. And that's exactly what I'm looking for. Hopefully the rest of the season is like this. Hopefully it keeps this bizarre and over the top, and I will keep enjoying it throughout the entire season. So anyhow, that's my thoughts on episode 1 of Dandadan. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, hit that like button down below, comment, let me know what's on the episode. Additionally, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe before you leave. If you like this content, you want to support the channel more, I have links in the description below. Greatly appreciate it if it does. And until next time, y'all take care.